Here, one part which I need to touch, as it is a chapter in this semester, is Sri Aurobindo's contribution. Last time already has started with his discussion on the Renaissance in India, how he was a force behind the national movement. All of you must be knowing that he was imprisoned in Maniktola bomb case, and 1 year he was in prison, and there he intensified his yoga practices, and he had darshan of Vasudeva, and that grand experience of Advaita he had there. Or not only Advaita, but all the possibilities of Indian philosophy. And in one of the classic Tales of the Prison, he has written beautiful book in Bengali. So there he describes how his experiences in the prison was, where uh, that when he would look at the other prisoners, he would see the God dwelling within them, the person who was uh, taking care of him, the person who were guarding him, the person who was sitting in the position of a judge, the police officers, everyone was also a part of the Narayana or the Vasudeva, Sri Krishna. And he realized that the great Vishwarup Darshan, what uh, we hear about in Mahabharata, he had that darshan because that small place where he was confined uh, otherwise would not have given anyone any positive ideas for normal people. But if you see our freedom struggle, many of our freedom fighters, they were basically great yogis, and they had intense spiritual sadhana, which helped them to even go through such ordeals and isolations, uh, not only happily but very creatively. They wrote uh, many things, translated, wrote poems, Mahakavya, what we call it. Some of them wrote commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. Sri Aurobindo himself wrote about his experiences, yogic experiences. And during that time, he had this almost, you can say, 15 days continuously. Swami Vivekananda was coming to him and was teaching him the next steps in yoga. This is unthinkable because this is after 1902, and 1902 Swami Vivekananda had already left his body, had taken his Mahasamadhi in Beluru Math, Calcutta. And here somebody is getting his guidance, but that happens in that occult field when Swami Vivekananda knew that if somebody can take this path of his ahead and take India to her destiny, that is Sri Aurobindo. So that's why he came to that Alipur jail where Sri Aurobindo was. And in Alipur jail, he taught him the next steps in the supramental descent and all, supramental consciousness. Only that word he had not coined that time. He explained that whole thing. Later on, when Sri Aurobindo came to Pondicherry, that time he started actually coining the terms for all these things, including the term called as uh, the layers of consciousness, as he has mentioned. So that's a pretty, you can say, extraordinary tale of his 1 year, because he himself said that when he went inside, that time almost there was a gloom all over the sky of India. Some of the great leaders had started this particular revolutionary movement. Remember, there were two different ideas floating that time. One was to oppose Britishers with the peaceful means by writing applications to them, by appealing to their reason, and trying to persuade them, or trying to show them wrong in front of some other people. These were all very peaceful but gentle ways of trying to, uh, address the issue of Indian freedom. And they were persuading or pleading that since we are sort of a different nation or something, we deserve to know have our own rule and kindly consider that. There was a there were very great people in that stream also. We can't deny their importance, because when the whole society is slipping in tamas, uh, even those who do this type of activity are also a cut above the other people, because others are not even doing this much. They were all selfless people. They were ready to sacrifice themselves. The only thing is their method was with a peaceful and non-violent way. And there was other group of people, and that was led by Sri Aurobindo and Lokmanya Tilak, two big names in that, and the Chittaranjan Das, and there was Lala Lajpat Rai, and other people also were there, Bipin Chandrapal. So these were the people who had a different opinion. They said that we are a nation here, not. If you read his writings that time, they are so fiery and so inspiring. If you get time, you should read some of his early writings, Old Lamps for the New, Indu Prakash, and all that. When he was Baroda, you all know he was working in Baroda under Sayajirao Gaikwad's leadership. And Sayajirao Gaikwad had picked him up because he had completed ICS and tripod and all the major exams in Europe that time. But just because he was not ready to give that final test of horse riding, he was not given the proper role of being a ICS officer. He was denied that, and he also never wanted, because three times he was called, he did not go. His mind was telling that I am not going to become servant of British, so he did not do that. But Sayajirao picked that point, and he said that here is a great talent, and he has already uh, actually passed the exam, except technically one horse riding test. And he is a person who has not only that, but even he has been the leading student in major European exams that time. Tripod was one of the greatest exam, and he had stood first there. So he said such person should be there with me. So he picked him up and he took him as uh, for the similar position to become the equivalent of ICS officer there, like a collector or something. But Sri Aurobindo did not like that for a long time, and he slowly switched over to another work, adjoining work. Apart from that work, he was doing the work of that divan and all, but he was more happy to be a professor in the college which was run by Maharaja Sayajirao. And there he was a person who could satisfy his uh, vast, voracious reading appetite. He could satisfy something further than that, because already he had started reading a lot about Greek, Latin, and entire European civilizations. He had started. Now he started studying Sanskrit and the Indian civilization, the works of our forefathers. And then he started comparing the notes. He was probably the only person that time who had studied so much from both the sides of the world. And there he realized that India need not be so apologetic and pleading about her freedom, try to request somebody that kindly give us our freedom and all. We should actually take it by as our right. It's our birthright. And if need be, it's perfectly justified that we struggle, we wage a war for that, or we create a revolutionary movement for that. So you can imagine what we see Sri Aurobindo otherwise in Pondicherry as a great Mahayogi. But he is not an armchair philosopher. Whatever he has said in Life Divine or Human Cycle and Foundations of Indian Culture, he has himself lived that. He has laid from the front, but so diligently, so cleverly that many years it was not known who is actually moving all those pieces. So thereafter, Britishers declared him as most dangerous person in the country right now. When he was imprisoned that time, one of the observation was he is the most dangerous person which British regime has to deal with. And there was no concrete evidence, but somehow he was imprisoned. And as I told you in the beginning, there he utilized this time to intensify his yogic practices. And when he came out of it, came out with even more glory and uh, greatness. And that is where he has given his famous speech, which is called as Uttarapara speech. I'm not sure if you people have studied that in one of your courses. In case you're not studied, kindly go through it. So Uttarapara speech and five dreams of Sri Aurobindo. These two are very important documents to understand his vision. Since in the midterm we are having his vision and all, I'm taking that, and at the end there is one portion mentioning five dreams of Sri Aurobindo, so I'm touching upon that today. And that it's a very important piece because in Uttarpara speech he declares that all that his experiences in prison he tells publicly, and then he says a very important thing. He says that for us there is no difference between nationalism and religion. Our religion is nationalism. Sanatan Dharma is nothing if it is not lived. It is a way people live the life. It's not something only to do with going to a temple or anywhere. It's the way we have led our life for not 1 or 2 years, but for nearly 9,000 years. And all of us have been doing that consciously or unconsciously. And in that process, wherever we need help, the divine is helping us because it is divine's will that this nation should be born. This nation was born with that understanding that there should be welfare of the humanity. So India has always worked for the sake of humanity, for the sake of entire world. There was never a parochial understanding that only ours and mine and my part will be correct and others will go to uh, wherever they want. But there was always Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kashib Dukkha Bhag Bhave. So that was the understanding. Or Shudvantu Vishwe Amrutasya Putra, Ye Dhamani Divyani Kastu. So just imagine that what wherever we speak Ano Bhadra Kurtavo. So you know everywhere you find this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire earth is my family. So every utterance has been for humanity. In one place, Swami Vivekananda says that every word which India spoke was having a peace before it and prayer behind it, and that is the reason why we still live. That is the reason why we have still survived in spite of so many vicissitudes and problems and invasions and crisis, because that blessing is upon us. That divine blessing is there. That divine thinks that this race has always spoken things for the sake of others, with the prayer, with the peace, with a attitude of being doing something good. And that's why we need to take care of this race. So somehow among all the problems also we keep on getting saved. So that is what in Uttar Para speech Sri Aurobindo was telling us. He was saying that this nation was born with that mantra, and in that Sanatan Dharma it lives, and if Sanatan Dharma is capable of perishing, it will perish with Sanatan Dharma. But such thing is not going to happen. That is this particular Sanatana Dharma means what? These are all the universal laws, the cosmic laws, which were codified by our people to become socio-economic laws. And because they are such important laws for the well-being of people, they will always remain. In one way or the other, they will resurface again. And therefore, he says for us to worship God is same as worshipping nation, and that wonderful rationale he created for a moment of freedom, that this is what is your ordained duty, this is also your spiritual duty, this is your national duty, because in India there is no difference between your national duty and spiritual duty and uh, personal duty. All are actually going hand in hand. So that's a wonderful speech. We should read it in original, in its very uh, way he has spoken. And thereafter, he further shocked people by saying his further declaration that now that the national movement is on the track and the revolutionary movement has taken good shape, the divine assured him that you do not worry now, another 40 years or something. This is 1910. So he was told that now that the things are going well, it's matter of another few decades, and you should now concentrate on what should happen after the freedom or what will happen after that. So start working on it, intensify your work for that. And so he said he got one adesha. Adesha means an order, a divine order, that now you go to southward. And then he first went to the Chandan Nagar, and from Chandan Nagar, because had he remained in the British area, he would have been again imprisoned by one way or the other way. Somehow they wanted to trap him. So he, just like some of the other freedom fighters, Tilak was sent to Mandalay, and the Savarkar was sent to Andaman. So he would have made the same fate, and a longer duration he would have been sent. So the divines again, protected him because some work was to be done through him. And he said that he was told that you go to the French territory, because there he cannot be touched by the uh, British soldiers or British government. And therefore, then ultimately he reached Pondicherry, which became his cave of tapasya for the uh, next 40 years. That is 1910 to 1950. He spent all his time there and painstakingly worked for that next possibilities of humanity. It's change in the consciousness, which was so important, and very complex things which common people thought that why he's there, why can't he come back and work. So many people went and requested him, please come back, take the presidentship of Congress, or take this, that. So much of was offered to him, but he never budged from his resolve, and he said, I already decided my job is here and I'm not in politics now. So that's a great tale of a person who laid politics from front and then very easily just simply renounced it and went for a higher purpose, even before his colleagues were able to understand. So in that process, there is a wonderful mm, speech he has given on 14th August 1947, and I'm just showing it to you on your screen so that you can read that. I think just 1 minute. And this is his speech about the five dreams, and it's worth understanding what his idea is and how the things are happening as per his idea. So we'll take that, and then we'll again take some pieces from our present coverage of management, economics, and other things. So I'm just showing you what he has given as a speech. So this was a speech which was message as a message. It was given on 15th August 1947, uh, but actually it was broadcast on 14th August, one day before. What he is saying here is very important. Sri Aurobindo says that 15th August is my birthday, and it is naturally very gratifying to me to so that it has assumed such a vast significance on the same day India is getting independence also. And that is sort of, I consider this not uh, as an accident or a coincidence, but it is more like a sanction and seal of divine force, which has always guided my steps on the work with which I began my life and beginning its full fruition. Indeed, on this day, I can watch almost all the world movements which I hope to see fulfilled in my lifetime, though then they looked like impractical dreams arriving at fruition or on their way to achievement. In all these moments, Free India may well play a large part and take a leading position. That is how he has started the speech. And then he has given us his declaration of five dreams. That's why this speech is famous as Five Dreams of Sri Aurobindo. Here he says, my first dream is to have a revolutionary movement which will create a free and united India. And then further he says, yes, it has been partly achieved. A revolutionary movement was created. India has freed. But the second part of the sentence, that it is a united India, is yet to happen. Somehow it has not happened, because when the British people went, they created a partition and they went. So that should not be taken as a permanent thing by any Indian. We should never consider partition as the final thing, because culturally, spiritually, mentally, we are actually one. So for thousands and thousands of years, this entire land has been one. So we should never consider this as a permanent settled fact. And he was very emphatic about it, that the partition must go, because that is how the soul of India is. His idea, one of the unique idea of Sri Aurobindo is a nation is a soul, which was the ancient idea of India actually. That a nation is not just a piece of land. It's not a political unit, not a economical or a strategic unit. It is it's a living being, and like living being will have a body and mind and everything, but the main essence of that living being is the soul which resides in it, which is immortal. Similarly, nation also is immortal because it has got a soul which continues. External forms or the external bodies keep on changing. So political boundaries are like its physical body. That is important, but that is not the final settled fact. And that's why he says the partition must go. It should never be taken as, he writes here, it is to be hoped that this settled fact will not be accepted as settled forever or as anything more than a temporary expedient. For if it lasts, India may be seriously weakened, even crippled. Civil strife may remain always possible even a new invasion and a foreign conquest. So this, I think, we have not yet done much about it in last 75 years. Sadly, people have almost accepted that India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Earlier, at least, it was East and West Pakistan. It became Bangladesh after 71. But somehow we had taken that as a settled fact, or conquest of Tibet by China. We have simply accepted it as it is. We should not accept that, because Tibet also is a very important, culturally very important neighbor of India, and that cannot become just part of China so easily. Similarly, Pakistan also cannot, because Pakistan basically is a unnatural creation. It does not have a soul. It has got the same soul as India, but the whole creation was through a political requirement and egos and the clash of leaders. It was not common man who had asked for all that thing, and there should be very conscious effort to ensure that this Sherbindo has written. There must be very clear efforts that there should not be communal division, and there will not be any problem of depressed classes or the hatred for each other. And uh, one should never take this as the way we have been always divided, because we have lived harmoniously with great religious understanding and give and take, and for centuries together we have achieved that. Only and the latest example was 1947 when we fought together, and before that also 1857 we all fought together, irrespective of our communal differences. So same way we would have taken it further, but it was a political problem that they created a divide. So partition has to go. Partition has also crippled this entire area. Not only India, it has weakened, but it has weakened Pakistan itself. It is not at all in a good condition economically or politically, or it became the hotbed of terrorism. So they have not really benefited by this entire process. When they look back, they never had a peaceful regime for a long time. Bangladesh never came up the way it was. It was a rice bowl of the entire Asia, but it again became, so because there was a natural way of trade and commerce, that is where the economics also comes with the soul of India. You will see most of the trade routes were passing from Calcutta and Dhaka, and through that they used to go to Myanmar, or they used to go to Tibet or China and all. And while going there, there was midway there were things like Assam and Arunachal and all. So it's for a natural process. Now it is not possible, so we have to go all the way around, because we can't pass through other countries, so-called other countries. So we have to go around the way and reach the other countries, which has created a lot of logistics issues and extra price to be paid for the things for no reason. So whatever were the ancient trade practices, trade routes, they were very natural, and there was a clear division between who will produce what and who will sell what, and all that entire thing got severely damaged. In fact, from Bengal partition itself, it got damaged. There further with the partition of India, it was completely crippled. So if you can sometimes read a beautiful book written by Sanjay Hajarika, he has written a book called as Strangers in the Mist. So there he explains, because he's writing about Northeast and its insurgency and the problems which are there. And then he says how this whole area became isolated and always a hotbed of terrorism, and all the time some activities are going on, whether Bodo or Naga or Kukis and Manipuris, and then there are everywhere something is going on. There is no peace. That is because of this idiocy. He is very strong, but he says this partition has created this whole problem, because there was a livelihood of people. They had their own way of sustenance. They had good relationships of exchange of commodities and bartering with each other, or sometimes money exchange happened later on. So much was going on peacefully, and all of a sudden, one area is separated, the other is separated, and the third is separated. So who suffers the most is the common people, the laborers, the farmers, the people who are working as the karigars or the craftsmen. That what British achieved was the total destruction of our guild and the Shreni system, which we have been taking for quite some time. But if today time permits, I'll give some more ideas on that, because that was the indigenous system of decentralized democracy and merchant guilds, and also the trade, commerce, everything was connected with that, and that was decentralized so that each one can have his own way of growing internally and externally. So that whole thing was totally devastated because of this type of sudden political divisions, and that's why partition has created such havoc. It has to go, and slowly we can see diplomatically things are happening. Very recently, we had good ties with Bangladesh, so at least that side we are doing good. We also have good understanding about with some of the major countries in Southeast Asia. Uh, uh, we have good diplomacy with even the Middle East countries. Pakistan still remains a faraway dream to establish good ties. But Sri Aurobindo is very clear on some of the things, and we need to believe that in the time to come, this first dream that India will be free and united. So we are free, so to say, politically we are free, but we are not yet united. And political freedom also should percolate down to the masses. That also should happen. So that is the first thing which we can observe, and we can comment on the first dream. Second dream, he says, is resurgence and liberation of the people of Asia and her return to the great role in the progress of human civilization. So here, Sri Aurobindo wants to tell us that uh, Asia as a whole has been just like nation soul. There is also soul of the nations put together. So Asia as a whole also had shared something very unique in history, and it has contributed that to the rest of the world. And as India got freed, that that wave was spreading far and wide, and many other countries in Asia also got their liberation. They got independence, and then there was a great moment, freedom moments which happened elsewhere also, and Asia got liberated. That not only that, but Asia started reasserting itself in the world stage. So this dream also is partly coming true. Many places we see it's coming true because whether it is China or India or Korea or Japan, post 1950, we have seen many of the Asian countries who have asserted themselves as a global force. And there also India has to play her part, he says. It has begun to play it because it has to give that, direction, and the it is not simply leading the world or Asia showing the path to the world, but Asia should wake up to her great role, what path she was telling the entire world, what once Gautam Buddha and the other as a light of Asia has spread the world of a new society based on equality and fraternity. In true sense, what was the mantra of the French Revolution? That Asia has lived it since her ideas of Janapada and Mahajanapada and her model of decentralized republics. So that has to be brought back, not just imitation of the West. So Asia emerging up and again becoming just the copies of Europe and America will not serve purpose of her existence, because God wants each nation to be different, follow her own message and her dream, her mission, and play the note in the march of the nations. There is a harmony to be created by all the nations, and each one has to play its own note in that. So India has got a spiritual note to be played. Spirituality applied to the life in the lowest possibilities of life. That is India's mantra. It's not if spirituality to be practiced in mountain tops, but in the buzzword of the life, it should be practiced. And that's why it was applied to every part of life, to sculptures, to architecture, to dance, to drama, to literature, and to politics and sociology and economics. And that's why we said this is Devanagari. There should be a there should be a city where the gods will dwell. That's how our script also was named as Devanagari. So that is India's mantra. Similarly, Asia also has got a mantra. So if Asia is getting research, there is a resurgence and liberation. It also means that Asia should come up with in her own way, her own identity. She should assert for the sake of the world. Then it is happening partly, but we can again see there a danger that the Europeanization or the westernization has been equated with modernization, and so whatever is modern is only westernized, and there is a great danger of uniformity all over world. There is no uh, place much for variation, or where there is no variation, there is no creativity, and where there is no creativity, there is no life. So it's very difficult to have such machine like uniformity all over the world. And just for the sake of it, just because there are some physical attributes, different height, body, and also we say these are the Asian people and these are the European people and American people. But otherwise, temperamentally, conceptually, the systematically, or the way they are responding to the life, if they are just like them only, there is no difference, then that won't serve the purpose of being Asian or being Indian or being Chinese or being anything that for that matter. So it's very important to follow the nature's plan, because nature wants all of us to be different. Unity in diversity is the plan of nature, and that's why every small thing in the nature is different. Not two, no two kittens are same. No two leaves on a tree are same. Not no two flowers are actually same. Everything is looking different, and yet there is always a constant reminder to us that even though it is different, it can be still beautiful. It can be still harmonious. So that is something which human race, human society, human systems are also supposed to be, but they have not become that because of the mechanical onslaught of the modernization, which has led everything to a mechanized, uniform, efficient, but uh, uncreative way of life. So that has to be broken now. That's a danger. But otherwise, Asia's emergence is a thing which is actually happening. And the force of Asia, or the role of Asia for the world unity and world future, is now something which people can be understanding very well. Then comes the another dream what he had. He said that it is about the world union forming the outer basis of a fairer, brighter, and nobler life of all mankind. So unification of the entire human race was always a dream which Sri Aurobindo has expressed. He has written a complete book on that, named as The Ideal of Human Unity. And he says it looks far from true right now. It looks utopian, how entire human race can come together. And because there is so much of struggle, there is so much of strife, people are not ready to even stay together for a long time in the same locality, forget about the world. But it's nature's intention, and when nature intends something, then in spite of all the problems and the issues, it will somehow achieve it. So there are signs of it already visible that the world is coming together, and entire world will be, sort of really coming to that understanding that ultimately we all are human beings, and we must become a united world, a united mankind, and lead a nobler life, a brighter and a fairer, uh, and also create a outward basis also, so that this inward life can become better. So it has become in a struggling way, in a with a lot of difficulties and with some imperfect initiation. But this momentum has to catch further. And here again, he says India has to play her prominent role. So that is all destined role for India. Why India has been promoting, sort of surviving and thriving, and still clinging to her ideas of that, trying to apply spirituality and abstract truths of perfection to normal everyday life. So that has got a significance, because tomorrow when the world has to become one, India will again show that model. So when we talk of India's model and all, it should be on that very practical level, where day to day things also can be governed with it, and it can give some concrete solutions to the issues of life, whether they are issues of technology, of singularity, of artificial consciousness, the issues which are tormenting us of virtual reality, to deal with the difference between the virtual reality and the actual reality. So these are the issues which are in front of people today. Um, and they are along with the age-old issues of how to give food to all, solve the problem of hunger, and problem of water for all, habitat for all, so education for all, having gender equality. So the issues and not having diseases, not having so much of vulnerability to the attacks by external forces. Uh, so the issues which were there from beginning have not been solved, and these new technological issues are added to that. So that is where, that a catastrophe may intervene. He says, and interrupt or destroy what is being done, but even then the final result is sure. For unification is a necessity of nature, an inevitable moment. Its necessity for the nations is also clear. For without it, the freedom of the small nations may be at any moment in peril, and the life even of the large and powerful nations may become insecure. So he says why it is necessary, though there can be, catastrophe and there can be destruction of what is built up slowly for quite some time. Still, it is necessary and it is going to happen because that is the only way. The unification of world in a right way is the only sign by which, only method by which the smaller nations will get protected. Otherwise, the bigger nations will never allow them to exist rightfully. They will be either they will be economic subjects or they will be political subjects, and they will just simply live a life of uh, you know dependence. And when someone is not free, totally dependent, and just working as per the whims and fancies of some other higher force, there can never be a spiritual growth or mental growth or even physical growth of that race. So, as nature's plan is that all have to ultimately get liberated, that's why this unification is very important. And that is, the unification is therefore to the interest of all, and only human imbecility and stupid selfishness can prevent it. But this cannot stand forever. See, so beautifully he writes, the unification is therefore to the interests of all, and only human imbecility and stupid selfishness can prevent it. But this cannot stand forever against the necessity of nature and the divine will. But an outward basis is not enough. There must grow up an international spirit and outlook. International forms and institutions must appear. Uh, Perhaps such developments as dual or multilateral citizenship, willed interchange of or voluntary fusion of cultures. Nationalism will have fulfilled itself and lost its militancy, and would no longer find these things incompatible with self-preservation and the integrality of its outlook. A new spirit of oneness will take hold of the human race. That was the another dream what he had. So what does it mean? He says there are outward bases also required. For example, dual or multilateral rules. This is also already happening, that people are getting more than one nation's citizenship, and there is voluntary exchange of the cultures and exchange of people also. Cultural troops and educational groups are getting exchanged, and there is fusion of cultures. And there was a time when nationalism was very militant, and we have seen it in the Second World War, that nationalism was synonymous with uh, you know just assertion of self at the cost of others. But that part has gone now, that phase has gone, and now it will give away for the internationalism. And the that is the right time now for people to think on that lines, and preserving their own identity also, one can still join hands with all others. That is the spirit of oneness which is coming. The fourth dream what he has given is very important now, is about the spiritual gift of India to the world. So, and when such time is opportune, when things are really going in that direction, world is getting united, Asia is getting re-established and raising itself again. Asia also is getting united, and when India is free and many other countries are free now, that is the time when India will again give her spiritual, fresh current of spiritual gift to all the world. And there is already a growing interest, he says, that Europe and America have started uh, liking and understanding Indian spirituality more and more, and that movement will grow. And amid the disasters of the time, more and more eyes are turning towards her with the hope. And there is even an increasing resort not only to her teachings but to her psychic and spiritual practice. So not only philosophical part of it people are able to like, but they will also like her actual practices. And you can see in the last few decades that is actually happening. We have seen it being so much of interest there in many spiritual movements which went from India abroad, and many of them became the world movements. Whether it is ISKCON, or it is Ramakrishna Mission, or it is Sri, or recently Sadhguru. Before that, there was Babs. So Indian movements becoming the world movements has not been a new phenomena. People really have got a genuine interest in understanding the things, and yoga has become a worldwide phenomena. People want to learn that, and Ayurveda has also taken roots all over as alternate practice. And many of the tantric practices, there is a person in David Frawley in US who has done a lot of work in that, scientifically trying to establish the whole thing. So there are people who are working in different zones in different ways. There are people like Ken Wilber who has tried to put the whole thing in philosophical part of it, and very famous now. He has also taken clues from Sri Aurobindo. So all over world, you will find that people are trying to do different things, uh, and so that is where we actually are, having this type of requirement. And then there is a final dream. There, he says this is the final step in the evolution, which will raise man to a higher and larger consciousness, and that will begin the solution of the problems which have perplexed and vexed him since he first began to think and to dream of individual perfection and perfect society. So after India has given this spiritual gift to the world, not just now, not that only now we are giving. Almost history says that 7 to 8 times before, right from the beginning of history of mankind, whenever there was a need, India has always gone out and given the spiritual gift. So there was different waves of spirituality all over the world. Now also same thing is going to happen. So finally, he says it is the step in evolution which will raise man to a higher and larger consciousness and begin the solution of the problems which have perplexed and vexed him since the first he began to think about the dream of individual perfection and perfect society. So that is where his that socio-economic thought, what we are talking, is coming in this beautiful couplet: the individual perfections and a perfect society. Because if you carefully see, most of the thinkers of the world, this word is repeating. They say how to make a perfect man in a perfect society. A happy. This word has been coined so many times, and it has not happened yet. If you try to develop a person and his liberation, his capacities are being built up, his possibilities are being built up in all utmost possibilities, then society never remains the perfect for that. Society is far from perfection. And if you only concentrate on making society perfect, the individuals are totally machine like in that, and they are never made perfect individuals. They are more like cog in the wheels, like or the bolts and nuts into a machine, but never individual perfected human beings. So the whole problem is how to create both of them, and that is the place where he says it is still a personal hope and ideal which has just begun to take hold both in India and in the West by forward-looking minds. And there are so many difficulties and all, but when the supreme will is there, they will be overcome here too. If this evolution is to take place, since it must proceed to a growth of the spirit and the inner consciousness, the initiative can come from India. And although the scope must be universal, the central moment may be hers. So there will be a universal scope of it everywhere. That movement has to spread. The evolution has to take the next, you can say, elevation in the process. But it cannot be without India providing impetus to that. India taking initiative in that, and that's why that is the way India's scope again increases in the final dream also. So such is the content which I put into the date of India's liberation. Whether or how far this hope will be justified depends upon new and freer India. So these are his five dreams, and today, I mean, because it is available on Google also. You can search for it. Many places it has been very famous. Five dreams of Sri Aurobindo and India's resurgence. So that is where I think